Hi guys, welcome to Masterminds. Today's topic is monetary policy. Before that, let me give introduction regarding to currency or money, and then only we can know what is the importance of monetary policy or monetary authority. Right. Yes, the currency or money. Who will issue this currency or money in any country? The respective central bank. It is the responsibility of any country's central bank to issue their currency in their denominations. Clear? Every currency has unit, one unit. As in India, it is Indian national rupee. Right in USA, US dollars. As in Singapore, Singapore dollars. As is in Canada, Canadian dollars. As the currency differ from one country to another country. All these respective currencies will be issued by the respective central banks. Okay. And this authority, right, regarding to money aspects, any authority lies in the hands of central bank, and this authority is termed as monetary authority. Based on these issues regarding issue of money and control of credit, whatever it may be, based on this issue, the policy that will be handled by the monetary authority or central bank will be treated as monetary policy, right? Monetary authority and monetary policy, right? This is the chapter of monetary policy. But before doing this, the basic thing you have to know, children, so that it will be useful for you, right? Each and every currency in the respective territory or in the respective country has four values. The first one is intrinsic value. The second one is extrinsic value, internal value, and external value. So each and every currency has four values: internal value, intrinsic value, extrinsic value, internal value, and external value. Yes, I'll show it to you what is intrinsic. Right. This is Indian national rupee currency. That's it, no? Right. And this is a denomination of 2000 rupees. Clear? Right. What is intrinsic value of this currency? The paper value of this currency will be treated as intrinsic value. If it is a coin, you have to consider the metallic value, metal value. Clear? Right. The metal value of a coin are, okay, the paper value of this currency will be treated as intrinsic value. Clear? Right. And what is the extrinsic value? The denomination of a currency. Say in India, the currencies have been denominated with 1 rupee, 2 rupees, 5 rupees, 10 rupees, 20 rupees, 50 rupees, 100 rupees, 200 rupees, and 2000 rupees. Yes or no? And this is a denomination of 2000 rupees. Yes or no? Right. Right. And this value of denomination will be treated as extrinsic value of currency. This paper value is intrinsic value, and whereas this denomination is extrinsic value. Do paper value matches with the denomination value? No. Do intrinsic value matches with the extrinsic value? No. Which value is less and which value is more? Intrinsic value is very less and also negligible, but whereas extrinsic value is much higher. Yes or no? The extrinsic value is more, but there is no intrinsic value equivalent to this. Yes or no? Yes. For this purpose, the government has to come forward so that it can provide legal tenderness to this currency, so that this currency can be generally acceptable by all the people in their transactions. Clear? In their transactions, whether transactionary, whether precautionary, or speculatory. For any purpose, they can use this currency. Clear? Right. Intrinsic value is nil and the extrinsic value is much higher. So then the government has to give legal tenderness. Giving this legal tenderness to any currency by a central government will be treated as, it will be treated as monetization. If the same central government cancels this legal tenderness to a particular currency, we call it as demonetization. If the same government or central government bring the demonetized currency into circulation once again, we call it as remonetization. Right. So legal tenderness is essential for currency where the intrinsic value is less and the extrinsic value is much higher, isn't it? And this currency is known as fiat money. FIAT MONEY. That is fiat money. Hope you can find here on the screen. Right. that is fiat money, right? Providing legal tenderness by the government is known as monetization. So even the legal tenderness cancellation also lies with the hands of government. So demonetization can also be done by the government. Remonetization can also be done by the government. So the central bank performance lies in the issue of currency but not providing legal tenderness to the currency. Hope you can understand, right? Intrinsic value of currency, extrinsic value of currency, these two are not equal. If intrinsic value is more and extrinsic value is less, no need to give any legal tenderness. But if intrinsic value is less and extrinsic value is more, certainly we have to provide the legal tenderness so that it can be generally acceptable in all types of transactions. Clear, right? And this currency is termed as fiat money, not only in our country India, in all the countries, about 196 countries of the world. 193 countries have been registered or recognized under the United Nations, yet to be recognized 3. And other than United Nations, we are having several organizations. Based on that, some countries have been recognized. If we consider, we can come across around 260 countries. Right now I am discussing about 193 countries. In this 193 countries, wherever you go, you can find only fiat money. That means no intrinsic value, but it has its legal tenderness provided by the respective government as legally acceptable or generally acceptable. And worldwide we are facing the currency of fiat money only. That's it, the history of intrinsic and extrinsic value. Around the world we come across with the fiat money without intrinsic value, but it is legally tendered only with its extrinsic value. That's it, right? What is internal value and what is external value of a currency, right? Take the example, if in a country there is an inflation, rise in prices, we have to use more money to purchase the same product. Yes or no? So we can say that the value of money decreases at the time of inflation. Yes or no? Yes or no? The value of money decreases at the price at the time of inflation. At the same time, accept that situation of deflation. When there is a deflation, less money is required to purchase the same good. So we can say that the value of money increases. So during inflation, the value of money decreases. At the same time, during the deflation, the value of money increases. In economy, no economy should aim at either inflation or deflation. It should aim at price stabilization. To bring price stabilization, the value of money should remain constant. Yes. So it is the responsibility of the central bank to maintain the internal value of currency through price stability in the country. Hope you might have understood. It is the responsibility of the central government to control the to bring price stability by controlling either inflation or deflation so that the value of money can be remain constant. And this is also comes under monetary policy. So we can say ultimately controlling inflation or deflation is the one of the concept to be considered by the monetary authority, or it has to be included in the monetary policy to control the inflation and deflation. That's it. That is the internal value. And what is external value? Nothing but foreign exchange rate. $1 is equal to, as today is 28th September 2020, and today's exchange rate of Indian currency with the dollar is 1 US dollar is equals to 73 rupees 0.735 pice. This is the exchange rate, right? It may leads to in foreign exchange market, sometimes the value of rupee gets decreased and we call it as depreciation of home currency. Sometimes the value of rupee increases and we call it as appreciation of home currency. So ultimately we can say that even in the external market, that is international market, in the foreign exchange market, we can come across with the situation that appreciation and depreciation of currency. Because of appreciation or depreciation of currency, the external value of currency gets unstable. That's it, no? So it is the responsibility of the central bank of any country to control internal value of currency to bring price stability. At the same time, external value of currency to bring exchange rate stability. That means foreign exchange rate stability. These two, internal value has to be protected. At the same time, external value of the currency has to be protected by its central bank. So these two also we will discuss in the monetary policy. So you can assume that issue of currency with the low intrinsic value and high extrinsic value, right? And this will be termed as fiat money if the country or central government provides legal tenderness to it through monetization. That's it. Internal value of currency has to be protected by the RBI. External value of the currency has to be also protected by the RBI. All these terms will be discussed in the monetary policy. That's it. Let us enter into the topic of monetary policy. According to our board material, monetary policy, in this chapter, we are going to discuss about 5 topics. The first one is what is the main aim of monetary policy? It has to control the money market. Monetary policy has to control which market? Money market. It's not the total financial market. It has to control only money market. Right. In the money market, what is meant by market? Demand and supply. What is meant by money market? Demand for money, nothing but desire for cash in hand, and money supply, money in circulation. Yes or no? Right. What is the main aim of the monetary policy? To control the money market. What is the money market? Demand for money and supply of money. We can control the money supply directly, but whereas as a central bank, it cannot control the demand for money directly. It has to use certain instruments to control the money indirectly. And these topics will be discussed in this chapter. Right. Next, here what are the topics will be discussed? The first one is objectives of monetary policy. In this objectives, we come across with normal objectives and also multiple objectives, at the same time explicit objectives. So we are going to discuss about 3 types of objectives of monetary policy. The next one is monetary transmission mechanisms. We came across with the 5 channels: interest rate channel, exchange rate channel, credit channel, balance sheet channel, standard asset price channel in this topic. At the same time, monetary policy instruments. Right now I'll discuss with that topic. Next one, monetary policy framework. So for everything we have to draft for any policy, and what will be its framework, what are the topics have to be included, what are the topics to be discussed, what are the topics to be achieved. All this will be discussed in the monetary policy framework. And the last one, to implement this, we are having one institute or body, and we call that as monetary policy committee. In common we use the term as MPC. But in this video I am going to explain a small topic, that is monetary policy instruments, which are very essential right now in this pandemic situation of COVID. Especially, what is the range of money supply in the economy? Let me reveal. In this pandemic situation, especially COVID-19, first you have to know what is the availability of money with the people, or money supply, or money circulation. It's very low. Yes or no? Right. When the money supply is low, no deposits will be there. Automatically, bank lending also becomes slow. If bank lending becomes slow, we can say that the credit supply is low. If the credit supply becomes low, the investment becomes low. If the investment becomes low, employment opportunities decreases. With the decrease in employment opportunities, output gets contracted. If the output gets contracted, automatically economic growth will not be performed. We have to experience economic retardation, so it will affect on economic growth, and ultimately economic growth leads to effect on national income. As national income affects on aggregate demand rises means just falls means we can expect deflation. If aggregate demand rises means we can expect inflation. Right, inflation or deflation leads to liquidity positions of the economy. So when you are discussing with a topic in this board material, we come across with the different terms. Sometimes we use liquidity management, sometimes we use money management, sometimes we use credit management that can be performed by the central bank. So to overcome this problem, you have to keep in mind that one topic, you can use these terms. You can use any of these terms. You can use money supply, you can use credit supply, you can use bank lending, you can use investment, you can use employment, you can use output, you can use economic growth, e.g. for economic growth. You can use the term of national income, you can use the word of aggregate demand, you can use the word of inflation, you can use the word of liquidity. All these terms are consequential terms, and the same impact will be found on all these terms. So you can write your sentence, or if the question is asked about employment, you can present. If the question is asked about the inflation or investment or liquidity, whatever it may be, you can present very easily. I'll tell only one thing. If the money supply increases, automatically bank lending will increases, which leads to increase in credit supply. Banks provide credit, does not money. Yes or no? Right. As credit supply increases, automatically what happens? Investments in the economy increases. If investment economy in the economy increases, employment opportunities also increases. With the increase in employment, more output will be produced. More output leads to economic growth. Rise in economic growth leads to rise in national income. Rise in national income leads to rise in aggregate demand. If the aggregate demand rises, rise in general price level takes, which leads to inflation. If the inflation leads, high inflation leads to high liquidity. That's it, no? High liquid cash is essential to purchase the goods and services. That's it, no? So we can use any of the term. We can use money supply, we can use bank lending, credit, inflation, liquidity, investment, employment, output, economic growth, aggregate demand, or any term you can use. It doesn't mean of only particular word. Okay, it will be very easy while you are doing with the board material. Some places they use only bank lending or credit supply. Some places they use liquidity, and some places they use the word of inflation. So you can use any of the word for money supply. That's it, right? So I'm going with the monetary policy instruments. Monetary policy, right? I'm going with the monetary policy instruments. In this unit, we are coming across with totally 7 instruments. Very easily you can remember at the time of listening to the topic. It may take some time, but once you listen means you can easily, without any preparation, you can present the exam, right? You can attend the exam, you can perform in the exam, right? The first one is cash reserve ratio. What is the cash reserve ratio? A portion of total deposits. Until this chapter, you do one thing: treat me as a central bank. In India we are, so treat me as a Reserve Bank of India. You the students who are the listeners, please feel you as a commercial bank, and others you treat as a common public, right? Common public will bring and keep deposits in your bank, and the deposits may be saving account deposits, current account deposits, and fixed deposits. These three deposits together is known as total deposits. In your bank accounting, you post these deposits in the liabilities side. Yes or no? You will post these deposits in your bank accounts on the liability side of a balance sheet. Yes or no? Right. So we call these deposits as liabilities. There are two types of deposits. On demand, we have to give the current account and saving account. So current account and saving account together, deposits known as, we call them as demand deposits, and the time deposits as time deposits, and we call them as demand and time. Instead of deposits, we call them as liabilities, because it becomes a liability to a banker. That's it, no? Right. Portion of total deposits you can write, otherwise demand and time liabilities you can write. Okay, refers to the fraction or portion of total deposits which you the commercial bank has to place, it has to keep with Reserve Bank of India in the form of cash. Okay, I'll tell one example for you. Let total deposits are demand and total liabilities on this day for you is 100%, right? 100 rupees, right? Yes, the CRR is 4%. Cash reserve ratio, what I decided is 4%, right? What is the amount you have to place with the RBI in the form of reserves? You have to place 100, 4% means 4 rupees, and the cash balance that will be available with you, the bankers or commercial banks, will be 96 rupees, so that you can lend only 96 rupees. Yes or no? You cannot lend 100 rupees. You can lend only 96 rupees. What is the purpose of fixing CRR? This will be a doubt to many students, and I'll explain you why it became an instrument to control inflation or deflation or any situation in the economy. Right now, not only India, all the economies are facing recession and depression. Yes or no? All the world is facing recession or depression. Let us take recession, right? In this recession, what is the activity of the central bank or the Reserve Bank of India in our country? We have to increase the money supply, we have to increase the investments, we have to increase the employment, we have to increase the aggregate demand, we have to increase the economic growth, we have to increase the liquidity. Yes or no? To increase the liquidity, right? What the government, what the central bank is going to perform, let us have a look on this, right? As a Reserve Bank of India or central bank of a particular country, right? I have reduced the CRR from 4% to 3%. I have reduced, watch it out. I reduced the CRR From which percentage to which percentage? 3%. You can understand. Right. Right. The commercial banks have to keep with RBI 3 rupees. Yes or no? So that the leftover balance with you will be 97 rupees. So that the bank can lend only 97 rupees. Yes or no? When the CRR was 4%, your lending rate, the commercial bank lending rate, or the commercial bank credit, or the investment in the economy, aggregate demand, is how it will be, 96. But when it comes down or decreases from 4% to 3%, just imagine the lending has been increased from 96 rupees to 97 rupees. Yes or no? Yes or no? Whenever a central bank decides to increase the money supply or to increase the credit supply or to increase the bank lending or to increase the economic growth rate, what it will do? It will decrease the CRR. Can you get this point? When we decrease the CRR, it leads to increase in lending. Which relation exists between this and this one? As CRR decreased from 4% to 3% decreases, the commercial bank lending has been increased from 96 to 97. It has been increased. Which relation exists between these two? Inverse relation. So, whenever the Reserve Bank of India as a central bank of India or any central bank of a particular country wants to increase the money supply or lending or liquidity, up to liquidity you can write any aspect, right? What it will do to the CRR? It will reduce the CRR. Which relation exists? Inverse relation. If you get in the question increase, write decrease. If you get in the question decrease, you write increase. That's it now. So can we feel that this is an instrument of monetary policy? Certainly. Right now, the next one. What is the statutory liquidity ratio? Right. This also portion of total deposits, right? Portion of total deposits are demand and time liabilities, which the commercial banks has to keep with themselves in the form of either cash, okay, or gold, or government approved securities, uh, or we can call them as unencumbered securities. Uh, what is the purpose of this cash gold? Cash has 100% liquidity. Gold has within a less time we can convert into cash. So liquidity is more. At the same time, government securities as and when required it can be exchanged. So only liquidity features here they are explaining, right? The topic is what is statutory liquidity ratio. Each and every scheduled commercial bank of India, they have to maintain SLR. What is the SLR? Out of their total deposits, each and every commercial banks has to keep a certain portion of them with themselves itself in the form of either cash or gold or unencumbered securities or government approved securities. Clear? Right. What are they? T-bills, dated securities, and state development loans, and any other documents or certificates that have been permitted by the Reserve Bank of India. That's it. Clear? Yes. How it can act as an instrument? It's a question. Yes or no? Right. Same. On the total deposits you have to maintain. Yes or no? Right. The total deposits are 100 rupees. The SLR, let us treat it as 20% in India. Right. Also, the commercial banks with themselves, they have to hold 20 rupees either in the form of cash, either in the form of gold, or either in the form of unencumbered securities. Okay. Right. So that the commercial banks can have balance of 80 rupees with them, and this 80 rupees they can lend. Yes or no? Right. If any change occurs in this, let us treat on the same 100 rupees, right, deposits. If I reduce as a Reserve Bank of India, as a central bank in India, right, I had reduced the SLR from 20% to 19%. What happens? The commercial banks has to keep with themselves just 19 rupees, and their balances increases to 21 rupees, and their lending also increases to 81 rupees. When I reduce the CRR from 20 to 19%, the commercial bank lending has been increased from 80 rupees to 81 rupees. So we can say that whenever I want to increase money supply or lending or credit supply or liquidity or employment or investment in the economy, I can opt for the reducing of SLR. That's it, no? I have reduced the SLR from 20 to 19%, and the credit has been increased from 80 rupees to 81 rupees. So it will increase the credit supply. Okay. What what I'm doing as a Reserve Bank of India or a central bank of a particular country, I can reduce the SLR. So we can say that the SLR and commercial bank lending or money supply up to liquidity, you can opt any topic. Let's have which relation? Once again, inverse relation. If it rises, it decreases. Yes or no? So according to the situation, if I want to increase, I will reduce the SLR. If I want to decrease the liquidity, I will increase the SLR. Which relation? Inverse relation. So hope you can find that even the CRR has inverse effect on money supply and SLR also have inverse effect on money supply. As per the requirement, you can choose whether to increase or decrease. The next one is liquidity adjustment facility. Right. All the scheduled commercial banks of India have been permitted by the Reserve Bank of India to get the facility of liquidity adjustment facility in the year 2000. First, what is meant by liquidity adjustment facility? Right. You people, you the students who are listening to the class or the viewers of this video, right? You think of yourself as a commercial bank. Okay. You're all commercial banks, right? Being you as a commercial bank, you just have to think there may be excess of money with today's dealings have been done right from the morning to evening bank closing time dealings have been done. So in your bank you can come across with the deposits of the demand deposits and time deposits. At the same time in this you can come across with another topic that is withdrawals, right? Some loans, everything will be. So total deposits will be there, withdrawals will be there, at the same time lendings also will be there, right? Right, your deposits are less when compared to loans and withdrawals. Right now, you are in need of liquidity of money. Yes or no? Right now, you are in need of liquidity. You are in need of liquid cash. Yes or no? Right. Around 7 to 7:30 p.m. after the bank closing time, what the commercial banks can do through negotiated dealing system, they can avail the credit through Reserve Bank of India. Okay, when commercial banks are in need of money, okay, they can get credit or loan or they can borrow. The commercial banks can borrow from Reserve Bank of India through liquidity adjustment facility, right? On which basis? Overnight basis. What is this overnight basis? Right? Today it is on 28th September 2020. Right? Today bank performance has been completed. The time is over. Around 7 to 7:30 p.m. the bank managers what they will do through negotiable dealing system. Right? They will watch out what are their total deposits and what are their loans are outgoing or withdrawals, whatever it may be. If they feel that their outflows are excess compared to inflows, they will be in need of cash. Yes or no? During 7 to 7:30 p.m. they borrow money from Reserve Bank of India. And this process is known as repo on an overnight basis. What is this overnight basis? They have to repay the borrowed amount. Okay. They have to repay this borrowed amount on next working day. Okay. Next working day, the same time 7 to 7:30 p.m. They'll borrow by this night and they have to repay by tomorrow's night. Yes, after the bank dealings, right? So this process overnight LAF, we consider them as overnight LAF. At the same time, sometimes where you used to get excess of expenditure over revenue as deficit, excess of revenue over expenditure as surplus, how you come across. In the same manner, sometimes banks may undergo surplus money also, in the sense their total deposits or inflow of money will be more and their lending or withdrawals, that is outflow of money, will be less. Yes or no? Excess of inflow comparable to outflow. Automatically surplus money will be held by the commercial banks. Around 7 to 7:30 p.m. in the same manner, if they have excess amount, they don't keep with them. Interest will be lost. So what these commercial banks will do? Commercial banks place this money or park this money with the Reserve Bank of India, and the Reserve Bank of India pays interest on this. And too, this is also overnight basis. Can you understand, ma? And this is the liquid cash. When it is required, the commercial banks can borrow from RBI. At the same time, excess liquid cash is there. It can lend to RBI. For this, we have to come across two processes, that is repo and reverse repo. Once upon a time, we are having only overnight facilities and we call that as overnight repo, overnight reverse repo. But later, because of some adjustments, we have introduced that term repo, that is 14, it is up to 14 days is there, right? 14 days duration repos are there, 7 days repo durations also there, and we call them as term repo. Overnight means they have to borrow by this night and they have to repay in the next working day of 7 to 7:30 p.m. overnight. That's it. I'll go with the definition of this. Many of the people will be having doubt regarding to this. It is a facility extended by the RBI to the scheduled commercial banks and primary dealers to avail the liquidity. They need cash in case of requirement. When they require cash, they can borrow. At the same time, they can park excess funds. It's not a car to be parked. They can lend. They can lend the excess funds to the RBI in case of excess liquidity. If the commercial banks have excess liquidity, they can lend to RBI. If the commercial banks are in need of liquidity, they can borrow from the RBI. On which basis? Overnight basis. On the business performs day night, they will borrow or lend, and the next business day night, they will repay or they will accept, right, against the collateral securities. And this will be explained in the form of repo and reverse repo, right? There is a tip for you, all of you. These are the monetary policy instruments. I already told you about the, right, CRR, SLR, and this is the RR, sorry, repo rate, and this is the reverse repo rate, right? All these have inverse relation. I have to conclude this topic. By next class or next video, we can complete.